Welcome to Housing Developments.
I'm Jim Tobin.
And I'm Paul Lopez.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, man.
It's good to see you.
Absolutely.
Sitting out here with several inches of snow, which have now been plowed into feet of snow.
I know, crazy, right?
Yeah, well, and it shut the city down for now going on 3 days.
In D.C., anything shuts the city down.
Yeah, totally.
It's crazy.
But it's been the good life. Speaking of the good life, I know how you like that, Segu. Let's give a shout out to our sponsor, LG Pro Builder. Let's build the good life together.
Together.
Yeah, thanks for being with us in 2025, LG.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're in day 8 of 2025.
We are.
Let's talk about a couple of events this week. First of all, the passing of Jimmy Carter, the former president of the United States.
Yep. And a Hauser in his own right? Obviously,
that's what I was going with.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Despite what you might think about his politics, I mean, he was definitely good for housing. He was definitely a steward of Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously making that an international organization and one that does really, really good work, and a partner to many of our state and local associations across the country, and our members who give their time, and our suppliers who give their resources to that mission. So
that's right.
Yeah, good moment to reflect on President Carter.
No, 100%. And he lies in state until tomorrow, and then he'll get buried. But just wanted to take that moment.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened is that we have a new Congress.
We do indeed,
and that's something that I know that you love is a new Congress.
I do love a new Congress. Yeah, it's a whole new cast of characters to get to know, and a whole new set of priorities, and wholly owned subsidiaries of the Republican Party this time around, right? We go White House, Senate, and the House. Obviously, we have to wait till the 20th for the White House, but nonetheless, yeah, the Republicans are running D.C.
Yeah. Now, for the first time ever, right, in back-to-back Congresses, there was a little bit of a snafu, shall we say,
speaker drama
in terms of electing a speaker, but thankfully not as bad as the last time.
Yeah, Kevin McCarthy had it a lot worse, right? Was it 14 votes or what? They finally got to it. Yeah, still only one vote, right? But a couple changed their votes right at the end. I think the writing was on the wall. So whether it was the first or second ballot,
right.
Mike Johnson became the speaker, and that may be the easiest vote he has all year. Right. And I think it's just a foreshadowing of a very small majority, smallest majority in, I don't know if it's 100 years, but pretty tight,
right?
For a long time, and it's going to make governing hard, right? Counting votes is easy, but governing is hard.
Yeah,
the Senate's got a little bit more of a cushion, but even then, we can see that they're at odds on strategies moving forward on some of the incoming President Trump's big ticket items.
Yeah, because for the first time in I don't know how long, we have a new leader in the Senate.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
It's no longer our man Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell. Yeah,
right.
He's done a great job.
Oh yeah,
I still maintain one of the certainly a master of the Senate,
100%,
and certainly one of the masters of Congress. But now John Thune from South Dakota has taken over as majority leader, and he's going to have his work cut out for him as well. Yeah,
because he's going to have the same problem. Like Thune is kind of more of an old school GOP guy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So there's going to be a little bit of consternation, a little bit of battling out in terms of how the MAGA world fits with his world moving forward. But they've been working. I think President Trump is actually, elected or newly elected, incoming President Trump, President-elect Trump. Sure. He's in town and he's actually having dinner with them tonight to kind of set the stage, right?
Yeah,
so, what do we expect? I mean, what do you think? What's going to happen here?
I think you've certainly seen a more orderly transition than you saw in the first Trump campaign. They know what they're doing now, so to speak.
Right.
But the president is he's still talking big ideas, right? I mean, we talk about Greenland, we talk about annexing Canada, the Panama Canal, right? I mean, there's a lot of these kind of ideas that taken with this crazy eye roll, but there's a method to the madness, so to speak. But now the nitty gritty starts, right? The president wants to move his agenda, which is immigration. We want housing to be at the top of the priority list.
Sure.
A tax bill. They've got to do taxes. The current tax code, so to speak, for everybody expires at the end of this year. So there's an urgency to that.
And we have a debt ceiling that we have to deal with as well. We have a debt
ceiling we have to deal with, and all with very tight majorities.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, given how midterms traditionally play out where the party out of power gains seats, with so few seats to have to gain, it's possible that President Trump's got this governing majority
for 2 years.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of pressure on getting out of the gate early. That's why we're starting to see the Senate already hold hearings on the president's cabinet so that he can start with a functional government
from day one
on the 20th. Yeah.
So one of the things that's being floated now, and people are questioning how serious it is this one giant bill. Like basically, he wants to put everything in there in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
How does that play out? Because it seems like you're going to be making a little bit more enemies and have more consternation than friends.
Than friends. Yeah. All right. So they're going to need to follow a process called reconciliation, and without getting into the weeds. And if I wish I had my man JP Delmore with me, who is the master of reconciliation procedure, but essentially it's a filibuster protected vehicle. That they can move. Now the House works the same old magic. It's just raw majority, but the Senate usually has a 60 vote threshold for policy bills. This one will be protected, so you only need 50 votes, 51 votes to be exact. So it requires a couple of steps. One, they have to pass a budget. Both House and Senate have to pass a budget. It doesn't have to go to the president. Pass a budget that sets spending caps for appropriations. It also sets revenue targets, raising and taxing, so to speak, or spending on the tax side, the entitlement side, things like that. They have to get to that step. Then they have to cobble the bill together. And the only things that can go into the bill, according to Senate rules, the House can pass whatever it wants, but in order to get past muster in the Senate, they really have to deal with revenue, and they really have to have a price tag associated with it. So you cannot do policy inside a reconciliation bill. So we can't fix our FHA problem with the code and that kind of piece. But we can work on tax issues, or tariffs potentially could be in there. There's even talk about putting Fannie and Freddie reform in there, because there is a budget component to turning them back out into the wild and privatizing them again. Yeah. So that's the challenge. And the president, you only get a couple bites at the apple. One budget governs one reconciliation bill. So you can do a couple bills, but you have to do a couple budgets. Right. There's calendar year issues. It's complicated. It's messy.
Right. So do you think, well, first of all, let me ask you this. How serious do you think of a proposal this is? Because depending on who you ask and when you ask, the president has been either all in on one bill or I'll take whatever I can get as long as we move forward on this. How seriously should this Congress take this proposal?
Christmas trees, and I would call this a Christmas tree for lack of a better term, but the catch-all bill. In this case, you can put some priorities that have to, remember, you only got a 2-seat majority, 3-seat majority. You need something that's going to get everybody on the table. You can't afford to lose anybody, almost, and you're not going to get any Democrats. Right? They're going to let the Republicans swing alone on this one. Sure. And so in the Senate, you got a little bit of playoff because you got 53 votes. You can lose a couple. Yeah. But in the House, you really don't have that. So you want to put together a bill that's got something everybody likes. Probably everybody doesn't like some things in it, but you're going to vote for it because your priority's in there. Right. So we'll take the Northeast Republicans. They want SALT reform, and some either blow the cap back up, double the marriage penalty, whatever it is, something that gets now. But the deal is, I'm going to give you SALT, but you need to swallow the rest of the bill, whatever's in there. You may not like it, but SALT's okay. So that's the goal behind the one big bill. Plus, you just don't have a lot of time, because you want to move on to other items, right? They want to do immigration reform. They want to do all these things, or immigration policy. So that's the deal with one big bill. One big beautiful bill. It's a big beautiful bill. That's what I want.
So how do you think? How successful do you think? Do you think they come to an agreement?
They can't afford to fail. Right. Sorry to cut you off. They can't afford to fail. The taxes are going to go up or go back to where they were. Now, from the housing industry, there's some good things in that, but that's not going to happen. So they have to do a bill. Yeah. The question is, how big does the tax bill become? Can they do some tariffs in there? Do they tackle Fannie and Freddie? At least, put the guide, what the reconciliation bill will give instructions to then they will still have to go past Fannie and Freddie reform, right? Just because they say it does not make it.
The meat on the bones comes later, but right now they're putting the structure in place to make this happen and approve that.
I think there's a high likelihood they're going to have to do something. Yep. Whether it's one bill, I would bet on one bill. Okay. I just think they want to move quickly. They want to get the tax bill portion, if they do split it up, done by the summer, because again, they only have an effective governing time of a year and a half. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you see as priority one that will affect housing and NAHB
in the tax bill?
In the tax bill.
Yeah, I think first is kind of protecting what we have right now for our small businesses that dominate the NAHB membership. There is the 20% pass-through deduction. That's really important. You got to keep that. That puts us in small businesses on parity with the corporate rate, which is at 21%. Yep. And just a reminder, everybody, the corporate rate is permanent. Right. Whereas the 20% deduction expires. Yeah. So I don't know if there's going to be much discussion on the corporate rate. Trump would like to lower it. Okay, fine. But I don't know if if they're going to, they don't have to do anything. Keep it where it is. Big business is probably okay with that, but that pass-through deduction is really important.
Right.
Mortgage interest deduction currently at $750,000. We don't want to see that go down anymore.
Sure.
The second home deduction, that we want to make sure that stays where it is as well. Low-income housing tax credit, there's an opportunity to do things that we weren't quite able to do last year, which is make that a much better program, add more money to it, more credit availability, streamline that program. That's a big priority for us on the affordable rental side. And then it's just really about the rates, because for our members, again, the individual rate is their tax code because they're not corporations. Seeing what those marginal rates are going to be for our members is going to be really important. Death tax as well is in there, and estate taxes and things like that.
Right.
So we're going to be playing a lot of different things. State and local tax deduction for our northeastern, our western states that have high taxes. We want to make sure that we're not penalizing people for home ownership, and SALT really has done that.
Right. So what you're saying is that we're going to be busy right from the beginning.
Oh yeah, JP and Lake.
Lake's already been out there, right? Governor Affairs was already there for the counting of the votes.
They were. The team's engaged with the Trump transition team. They're meeting again today with parts of that team. The Trump transition team has reached out to us on a variety of policies. So
that sounds great, right? Like when I heard that, I'm all like, okay. It's been a while since we've had somebody come in and actually want to listen and us being heard without us having to be so aggressive and like
they're calling us. I get emails every other day. It seems like, hey, we'd like to engage with you on environmental policy. Hey, can you talk about housing policy? There's a lot of we want to hit the ground running on noon on January 20th with the new president or the new old president, I guess, and then start working as quickly as we can, and then. As we work, obviously buying in Congress, but it's going to be a busy couple of years, no doubt. They're always busy, but this one seems like a lot of activity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the things that we've also been engaged in is on the HUD side, right? I mean, we talked about this a million times in terms of the energy mandates. Right. We eventually got together with 15 AGs from across the country, attorney generals, state attorney generals, and filed a lawsuit.
Right.
Why did we do that?
Well, because we had we essentially had what I believe is an activist HUD who went ahead and is now mandated that anybody who wants to buy a new home with FHA financing or FHA backed mortgage, that home has to meet the 2021 IECC. Problem is there's only 5 or 6 states that are actually on the 21 code, which means there's 45 or 44 other states that they don't meet that code. So no FHA borrower is going to be able to buy a new home in that state, which then turns around and I think undermines what the Biden administration wanted to do, which is drive energy efficiency. It's going to force those borrowers into older homes and less efficient homes.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. And it's a mandate. And the reason why we filed a lawsuit is because we couldn't change the law. We couldn't change the Biden administration's mind regulatorily. So as my old friend John Chandler used to say, sue the bastards. And so that's kind of where we are.
Yeah. So, and we feel like we're on fairly strong ground here, and thankfully there's like I said, 15 AGs believe in that. So we're feeling pretty good about this, right?
Well, I mean, it's
a crapshoot.
You talk to the legal team, and the court system is what it is. But nonetheless, I think we're highlighting a couple things. One, there's 3 reasons we're doing this. One, we think Congress is delegated authority to ICC and ASHRAE essentially.
Who are private,
right? They can't do that. Number one. Number 2, we think that HUD has exceeded their authority under the law that has allowed them to do this. We believe they had one bite at the apple, which they accomplished in 2015. They can't do this over and over again.
Right.
And then third, their methodology of what's affordable, what affects availability and affordability of housing.
Way off.
They've basically said we're going to raise the cost of housing almost $8,000. We think that number is extraordinarily low, but you are making housing unaffordable if you pass this, and so we think that metric is wrong too.
Right.
So we're gonna take it to the courts. A couple things. It sends a message to the incoming Trump administration. Are you going to defend this regulation? Maybe they decide not to defend it, in which case the court says, well, this administration doesn't care about it. Maybe we do strike it down. It also sends a message to the Trump administration that if they want to roll back this regulation, as we're asking them to do, we're gonna back in the courts on this too, because maybe there ends up being a brokered settlement, and we could come up with a much better solution than we have now. So there's a lot of tentacles to this, but Tom Ward and the legal team, and the members who authorized this, thank you, because this is how we start to claw back housing affordability.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, that's a good start to the year.
Yeah, no, really, I love being aggressive, right? And that's what we're going to be. I mean, we always are, and sometimes the playing field shifts where you can't be as aggressive. This is a real opportunity for us to I've been talking about this too, right? To take the political moment that housing and housing supply is enjoying and turn it into a policy moment.
That's right.
This is the opening salvo of that.
That's right. I love the fact that we're going to be playing a little bit more offense than normal recently, and less defense. Yeah. Doesn't mean that, we'll keep the eye on the ball, but but it's just a nice change of pace. It feels different, right? I think people are optimistic that we can accomplish great things. Yeah, I mean, we're interest rates are staying high, unfortunately. And so if we can't affect the interest rates, right? So how do we lower the cost of housing if not through interest rates? Yeah. Then we lower the cost of housing the old-fashioned way, which is A, to build more, but B, build more affordably. Right. And interest rates somehow don't bite as much on a product that doesn't cost as much. That's right. And talking about the interest rates, like, people are now starting to feel that the 6.5, 6, that's the new normal. Well, at least for this year, probably even it's 2026. Right. They're not going to fall as fast, I'm afraid. Yeah, but I 100% agree with you. But before we talk about the fence sitters, people who are waiting for that sub 5 or 4, whatever. Like, I think people are just there's a comfort, I guess, instead of anticipating that things are going to fall back down to 3-4%. I think people feel like, what, I can buy at 6, 6.5, right, and then that's still the American dream. What you've always said, what we've always said, you can always refinance that mortgage, right? But I think the fear factor is going away. I guess. I hope so, and I think it's fine for builders, for buyers on the sideline that maybe don't have a home to sell, right? Yeah, that's the big deal. Trading up from that 3 to a 7 or 6.5 is tough. But I also wonder if the psychology of the expected economic acceleration and growth under the Trump administration that we feel in the stock market. I wonder if that gives people the courage to buy. Like, your hypothesis is right on. I can absorb a higher interest rate because I know I'm going to make a little bit more money. There's more job opportunities out there, and so I can absorb. I can cover that. So that's my hope. I think you're spot on. I think that's a great way to think about 25. I also think it's a good way to end this podcast, right? On a high note. Yeah. All right, man. Well, it's good to see you again. It's good to see you, man. 2 weeks. It's good. I know. Well, now we'll see each other good. Yeah. Don't take that the wrong way, right? Yeah. Well, again, let's thank our sponsor, LG Pro Builder. Let's build the good life together. Thanks for having me on board. Well, until next time, I'm Jim Tobin. And I'm Paul Lopez. See you. Bye.